Welcome to Books on Air, the podcast that tells the story behind the book. It includes insights from authors about how they compose their work, what inspires them, and what they hope you'll take away from their book. Here's your host for this episode of Books on Air, Lorna Gladstone.
Welcome to another edition of Books on Air. I'm delighted to have as our guest today Shirleyanne Thom. Her last name is spelled Thom. And in her work life, she is known as Shirley. We're going to be talking today about her latest book called She's My Brother and I Miss Him. Yes, you heard me correctly. She's My Brother and I Miss Him. You grew up, Shirley, with a brother only with 1 year's difference. You were very close to him. You loved each other. When did you realize that there was something going on that was different, or that gave you some surprise, or that you asked your parents, or anything?
It wasn't, I didn't suspect anything. My brother and I were kind of just a pair, and the parents were there, but he and I were the ones that communicated the most. And when he was about 12 years old, my mom and I were out shopping. We came home and all the drapes were pulled. And we went into the living room. She said, "Wait here." And she went upstairs and came back down and she said, "Have you ever seen your brother in your clothes?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, sometimes he puts them on." And I said, "Oh, okay. Things like that don't bother me." And she said, "I would like for him to stop. And I'm going to take him to the doctor to see if the doctor can make him stop." And I said, "Okay."
Okay,
and,
so that's around 12 years old, 11, 12 for both of you.
Yeah.
What then happened? Did you have a conversation with Jean?
No.
Once you found it just was no big deal from your point of view.
Exactly.
You were kids.
I'm kind of goofy, you know.
Yeah.
And life went on. And it wasn't until he was 51 and I was 50, and he had congenital heart failure in my home. And he went to the hospital and stayed there for a week. He came home to recuperate at my house. And so he was there and I was working. I came home a Friday night, went in to start fixing dinner, and I felt a presence. And I said, there's someone here that I don't know. And I turned around and there was my brother in a dress. A flowered dress with pearls, fishnet stockings. And I looked at him and he says, "We got to talk." And I said, "Damn right."
Okay, stop right there, because this is incredible. So you're saying that from childhood up to about 12 years old, you didn't know anything about it. It didn't bother you, and it was never spoken of until he was 51.
Yeah.
And your parents never spoke about it?
No. Oh, no. That was verboten.
And what did he do? Do you know whether he did see a doctor, or whether there were any difficulties at school, or was this just were your parents able to keep everything quiet his entire life? They
told him not to speak of it. And so it was when he was 51 and he said, "We need to talk." And we went and sat down in my living room and we had our first real talk.
And tell us what he said.
He said, "They say something like this is a choice, but I was 4 years old when I first put on your clothes. That's not a choice. That's part of who I am." And we talked and talked. And finally I said, "I'm tired. I need to go to bed and absorb this." I got up the next morning and I said, "Well, if you're going to wear dresses, we're going shopping."
No, stop right there. I have some questions before you tell us the next step. it's extraordinary, just what you told us so far. I think it's time to make it clear to the audience what the differentiation is between a cross-dresser and someone who's gay or homosexual, whatever the term you're most comfortable with, and even transgender, because a lot of people get all these terms confused and aren't clear whether they overlap or they don't overlap. So could you back up a little bit from your own story and tell us from a more scientific point of view what you know?
Human sexuality has many variations, as we all know. And cross-dressing males are, what are they called? They are not gay. They're not transgender. He had no wish whatsoever to be anything but a male who likes females. And it is so confusing because cross-dressing sounds so like such a big deal. And that was a part of my discovery process, is if it's not a big deal, then why are we so afraid of it? And it's simply, he wanted to feel, he would watch, Marilyn Monroe was his idol, because we grew up in the 50s and 60s, and he wanted to feel like he thought she felt walking in a dress.
Take us back now a little bit to the continuation of the story about going shopping together and what that was like. And did he try clothes on in the store? Tell us everything.
Yeah, he wanted to wear regular clothes, his cords and a shirt, to go shopping, because going out in public was pretty scary to him at that time. So we went shopping and pretended we were shopping for our mother.
and when about what year was this?
This was about 2006. I'm not certain of that. I'd have to check it out. But we would go. I would hold up a dress and say, "Do you think Mom would like this?" And I don't know that we were fooling anyone, but we went and we finally found a dress that we both could accept, because his proclivity for floral, flashy stuff is not my style. So we found a really nice dress, and I bought it for him. And then when we were finished shopping for stuff, we got in the car, and he said, "I've dreamed of this day my whole life." And I'm thinking, how silly is that? What's wrong with going shopping for whatever you want to buy? And he had tears in his eyes. And this guy was a manly man. I mean, he was a bluegrass musician. He was the voice of the Bellingham Mariners on the radio station. Manly man. It's just that. And I don't know whether it's a fetish. I don't know how to define it. But to me, it's no big deal. And at first, the fact that it was a no big deal, he went, "Wow, what a relief." But then he wanted it to be a big deal.
How did he define or what kind of big deal did he want?
Well, he wanted to be dazed and amazed. And he wanted me, he kept saying, "Talk to me like you would talk to other girls." And I said, "For one thing, I'm not a girl, I'm a woman." And he kind of got stuck, in the past and his dreams. And I said, "I talk to you just like I talk to my girlfriends." And he thought that women did girly talk. And I guess some do, but I don't know. Maybe I've been in the business world all my life, it seems like. And I talk to everyone the same, guys and gals. I love sports. So, I get to have lots of choices.
Shirley, did he ever marry? And if not, did he date women? Did he?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
He loved women. And he would have been a great husband and father. Seeing him with my kids and now their kids, I mean, I just ache that he didn't have children of his own, but he kept saying throughout our conversations, I didn't want to be a burden. And that is so sad. A burden. He's no burden to anyone. And he did have one long-term relationship. He wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, but he had bad eyesight, so he couldn't. So he joined the Air Force. And he was one of 5 men in the Air Force that they chose to go to Yale University and learn Chinese so he could sit in airplanes and fly off the coast of China. So he was a spy.
Yeah. Oh, my heavens.
I mean, they sent him, there's that, I think.
Give me the years, give me the approximate years that he was a spy.
He was in the early 60s, 1960, 63 particularly. They even sent him to there is this survival course in Nevada that the armed forces send people. He went through that, and he was, I mean, they wanted him to re-up because he was so good at interpreting what he heard sitting in the back of an airplane flying off the coast of China. But he didn't at that time agree with the United States foreign policy stuff. So he said no. And
so his life was his life primarily work or. Well,
it was mostly he went, my mom worked at Sears back in those days. So she got him a job at a Sears store, and he worked in men's furnishings. And he said in the department, they had a chart that says, if you're a woman and you wear a size 10 jeans, this is what you're male. So I said, well, are women cross-dressers? And he says, they're not defined that way. It's okay for women to wear men's clothes. You know, women wear men's shirts and stuff. It is not okay for men to wear women's clothes. And
so Shirley, did you read about cross-dressing or meet anyone who was an expert, or even did he have any friends who were cross-dressers?
No. I mean, because it was pretty, but you know what he would do? He would go out walking at night in dresses. And I said, you're scaring me. What do you mean you're walking at night? And he says, well, that's, if I walked in a dress during the day, then people would know. And I was told to keep it a secret.
And it was told by your parents.
Yes.
That was really all, they influenced him in that sense, his entire life.
Yes. I mean, and I think when I think about it, I get so frustrated and sad because there is no reason to keep something that doesn't hurt you or me or anyone a secret. You know, there are enough real bad things that happen. That's not a bad thing. What's wrong with that? I mean, I sort of ended my book, well, if he wears the dress and I wear the jeans, that's okay with me. How about you?
A great ending.
Yeah.
When the two of you sat down, and it was shortly before he died, correct?
He lived 14 years.
He lived 14 years with the...
After that, being able to come and visit me. And we brought in the rest of our family and was okay with them.
Good.
And I have one cousin, especially, that's really took him around to different places. And we're blessed to have a family. We were raised, with this exception, to enjoy the differences in people. Mm. But that apparently had its limitations, which I didn't know.
But at this point, from around the age of 51, he was open with the family, and they were supportive. And that must have been a very different and welcome life those last 14 years.
And by that time, both of our parents had passed, so they weren't there to stop it. Mm-hmm. And they were wonderful people. They just didn't know how to deal with it.
So Shirley, was he seen and at any time and experience any direct ridicule or violence or